YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with updated power rankings heading into NFL Week 14. We don't have any more undefeated teams. The Steelers, they were defeated by the Washington football team. So that means some major changes here within these power rankings, especially at the top. We do these every single week. Just so everyone's clear, they're not predictions since they are updated every week. If you get hot, you're going up. If you get cold, going down. If you're really impressing me, you're definitely going to go up. Just how it works here. If you're new, please subscribe. Power rankings, weekly picks for every game, score predictions, a lot more. NFL draft, free agency coverage, all of it. Follow our Twitter. Constant NFL talk on there, constant content. It's a must follow. Check it out. Instagram, podcast, Patreon. There's a link in the description and comments for anything that you may need, including that sided app you see underneath me. You debate football, earn points, and win Amazon gift cards. It's pretty cool. We have a page on there. Give us a follow. Links down below. Right before we get started with the power rankings, I mentioned that Patreon link down below for that. Junior score predictions, my bets of the week for NFL, college football score predictions, NFL playoff predictions updated every week. A lot's going on there. Appreciate your support if you already support us on there. Check it out if you have not yet. To the power rankings, the Jets are at number 32. That's not a surprise. They had the game. They had it. They had it wrapped up with the Raiders. They blew it. They're staying at 32. The Jaguars, they had it as well. They went to overtime with the Vikings. They couldn't pull it off. They're remaining at 31. Not the end of the world for those teams. They actually may prefer that for the draft position. Great quarterback draft, but you want to make sure you get those top two guys there. They're doing a good job of doing that. Bengals at 30. If they weren't beat up at the quarterback position, maybe they wouldn't be down here, but this is where they're at right now. They played a close game with the Dolphins for a little bit, but then they kind of let it get away from them. Kind of expected, though. They stay at 30. Cowboys staying at 29. Their offense looked decent last night against the Ravens. Looked a little better than the points scored even. The receivers were actually getting some separation. It was kind of surprising. Zeke was actually getting some yards there, except on the goal line. They went 3 plays in a row to Zeke, couldn't really get anywhere. Credit to Ravens defense there. But once again, some bad coaching and some 3 missed field goals. But the Cowboys remain at 29. Chargers moved down 3 spots after that embarrassing loss to the Patriots. They lost 45-0. The terrible coaching remains. Looks like they're a little sloppier on offense than they were a few weeks ago or earlier in the year. Defense hasn't been too good the second half of the season. Special teams is the worst in football. So they're on their way down after a loss like that and the way they're playing. 27's the Eagles. They're remaining at 27. Just really didn't find a reason to move them. You can't really put them below the teams below them. So they're staying put. Panthers are staying put at 26. They had a bye week last week. 25's the Bears. The Bears on a huge losing streak, 6-game losing streak. If you're on a 6-game losing streak, the way my power rankings work, you really got to move down. But it's still, I'm still confident the Bears are a better team. We're late in the season. We got full resumes pretty much on teams. We got full identities. I still feel they're better than the teams below them, but the 6-game losing streak is tough. The lack of offense for the most part during that losing streak definitely was pulling them down too. Now they're getting some offense going, it looks like. Still can't find a way to win. They're at 25. Who beat the Bears? The Lions. They were on their way down. They were playing some really bad football. They fire Matt Patricia. They get a win against the Bears. They score, 34 points in that game. Pretty damn impressive there. The defense, not so much, but division win there. Everything looks positive, I suppose, even though the defense looked worse, but with Patricia out, and they're on the right side here. So they're going to be up 4 spots to number 24 this week. Broncos remain at 23. They played the Chiefs pretty tight. They played them pretty tight. Good defense. The offense is kind of in the middle of the game. They were able to move the ball, run the clock. Melvin Gordon was getting going. Bad interception early from Drew Lock and at the end, I guess. But they did their part. They might have done enough to maybe, you'd think to pull that one off perhaps, but no movement for them. Falcons down 2 spots. Almost came back against the Saints. I did think they got outplayed by a good amount most of that game, even though they almost came back. I still like the way the defense is playing recently. It's night and day from the very beginning of the year. It's a huge difference from the last couple of years. It's kind of odd. Dan Quinn was supposed to be that defensive guy. He's out of there, and their defense is much improved. But maybe the young talent they've been adding and staying a little healthier than they normally do, maybe that plays most the part there. I think we're all in agreement on that. So they're down after a little bit after losing to the Saints. Texans down 3 spots. They play a tough Colts team, but they had that one wrapped up. Couple mistakes will be the reason they lost that game. Unfortunate fluky fumble at the end. I thought they could have won that game. It looked like it was in the makings of them winning by 1 point. It felt like, but they pretty much, for the most part, been pretty hot before that game. But coming off the loss and some other teams kind of rising up is the reason mainly they're moving down 3 spots heading into 14. The Niners down 3 spots. They play a tough team as well. But some other teams winning and helping themselves, they're going to move up ahead of them. So it's more what other teams are doing is the reason they're moving down. Teams like this, Niners, Texans, Falcons, all lost at pretty good teams here. Washington's up 3 spots. They're on a bit of a streak. They beat the Steelers, so they definitely got to move up. A win like that and being on a streak like that, you really want to move them up more than 3 spots. It's just tough to squeeze them ahead of some of these teams. Maybe the teams right around this range, it's pretty debatable. I think I talked about the last 2 or 3 weeks. I think the top 15, it seemed like in the last 2 power rankings, are on their own tier for the most part. There's probably another tier in the top 5 or 8, whatever, maybe even another tier in the top 3. But I think the biggest gap is 15 and then on, even though 15, 16 right next to each other. We'll see how it is this week, but Washington's kind of creeping up there, getting close to that tier. But that's an impressive win against Steelers. The defense it's a really good defense, always swarming to the ball. They get the good pass rush as well. And they're able to make more and more plays, seems like, every week on offense too. So that's good. 19 versus 20 this week. That happens quite often, actually. 19 versus 20. Washington versus San Francisco. That should be a fun one, actually. Should be a good game. Giants, 18, up 3 spots. They upset the Seahawks with Colt McCoy at quarterback. And they're up to number 18. So New York Giants, Washington football team, they're in the same boat there. They're in the same range. They're rising up. If they keep going, if they keep winning, they're going to keep going on up in that next tier of teams. So we're buying in that they're a better team than we thought. Both are better teams than we thought in the beginning of the year. I think we're all buying on that. But are we ready to, believe, are they that next tier of teams? They're getting close. They're getting close. And it's pretty wild that because 20 and 19 are playing each other this week, and now 18 and 17 are playing each other this week. The Cardinals have gone cold. They got a Hail Mary hangover going on, and it sounds funny, but I think that's actually a thing. when teams win in dramatic fashions, it's kind of proven, not 100% of the time, but it's tough to win after that, and that's what I like to. That's how I sum this up here. So it's tough to win off that. They haven't been playing well. They haven't been coached well. The play calling, the clock management, using the timeouts. Kingsbury not using them too well. Kyler Murray has not been playing good. Footwork's been sloppy, throwing off his back foot. Panicking too early. The whole team, the offensive line has been playing good. So maybe they can bounce back now. They play the Giants this week. The Giants will play them, defensively versus the Cardinals offense, similar to how the Patriots played them. So that's why I'm a little worried about the Cardinals offense. They're going to play them a similar way. They're going to run some stunts, which they did against the Seahawks, the Giants, that is, and it worked. Patriots did against the Cardinals. So it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a close game. The Giants are better than we thought. Maybe the Cardinals feel like they're not as good as we thought a few weeks ago. Maybe they can kind of get out of this funk, and they can definitely get back to where we thought they were. It's very possible. But they're down 3 spots, number 17. Vikings are remaining at 16. A close one with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They did get out there with a win. It did go to overtime, though. Wish they would make that a little more comfortable. But it's tough for them to squeeze into the next tier of teams. I guess they're a little closer, though, as they keep winning here to the next group of teams. They got a big game against the Buccaneers this week. This is a really bad matchup for them. If I had to pick what is the worst matchup for them in the NFC, I think it would be the Buccaneers. So this is a statement game for them. If they somehow pull this one off, it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge for them. But they're at 16. They stay put. Raiders staying put. Like I said before, even last week, again, Raiders were 15, Vikings were 16. There's a huge gap between those teams. And that gap's it's starting to close a little bit. Raiders aren't playing the best ball. They did beat the Jets. At the end of the day, they won. So there's a little value there. Not going to take away a whole bunch of value, in the end result of that game, though. They're going to stay at 15. Don't see any reason to move them ahead of the other teams. Big game against the Colts this week. That'll boost them up if they can pull that one off, even if it's on a Hail Mary at the end. I don't care how they win. You win that game, you're going up. 14, the New England Patriots, they're starting to get hot. They're starting to get in playoff mode, mainly defensively with their game plan. And they're running the ball, controlling the clock at a very high level on offense. So 5 spots for the Patriots. 5 spots. Dominant win over the Chargers. I know it's the Chargers, but they're winning in dominant fashion. They threw off the Cardinals. They're just figuring out the exact game plan for each team. They know how to throw off the young quarterbacks that some teams just can't figure out. Tough to game plan for them. Belichick's just coming up with the right game plan. See them change their ways a little bit just to fit who they're playing. The Belichick and company, the defense, they're getting in playoff mode. They got to make the playoffs first, but you like to see it because like to see, it's amazing, how Belichick can get his team into gear like that. This week, Thursday Night Football, they're playing the Rams. They're going to continue to do what they do. They're going to pound the football. They're going to play some good defense, but they're going to have to get a little bit outside their comfort zone with passing the ball downfield, maybe a little bit to beat a better team in the Rams. We'll see if they can pull it off here. 13, the Dolphins are staying put. A little close with the Bengals, and they started pulling away at the end. This team plays really good defense. The offense is still trying to find their way, but it feels like they're getting more explosive, I guess. A little more urgency to their game, each week, with the young quarterback Tua in there. So that's good to see. So they're at number 13 here. 12 is the Buccaneers. They moved down a spot. They had a bye week, so this is just mainly another team moving up because they won, and I felt they could move up a spot. That's really the only reason the Buccaneers are moving down. At the same time, if before the bye week, if they were hot, they were feeling it, it would have been tough to move them down, but they were kind of on the opposite end of that. So that doesn't really help when some other team wins. So they moved down a spot. You see 12 versus 16 this week, pretty big game. I really like the way the Buccaneers match up. It would be the Buccaneers, if they lose that game, they're gonna move down. We know that. That's a game they should not lose, even though it's a decent team they're playing. 11's the Ravens. The Ravens look to get back on track. Yes, they played a Cowboys team, but the Ravens, the offense looks towards getting back on track there. Lamar Jackson had a much better game. The whole running unit, the rushing game was fantastic. Defense, not as good as I would expect it, but I think I kind of feel they're getting back on track, but they're going to move up a spot over the Buccaneers. If the Buccaneers would have played and won a game, then the Ravens might have stayed put. So I'm not really taking away too much from the Cowboys game, as you can tell there. But win's a win. They're on the right track. Like I said, I kind of get this feeling they could be on the right track offensively, which we've kind of been waiting for. They play the Browns this week. Monday Night Football is a huge, huge game. I don't expect it to go the same as the first time. If you remember, the Browns made 2 crucial mistakes early, and that really just ended the game right there. So, and it got out of hand because of that. So it's going to be a whole different game here, but either team can win. Ravens at 11. Seahawks down 3 spots, number 10. Losing to the Giants with their backup quarterback. Losing to the Giants with the backup quarterback and having these backup running backs, Wayne Gallman and Alfred Morris, kind of go off on you. With all that being said, if you almost want to move the Seahawks further down than this. It's tough to move them down below these other teams, though. I still think they should be ahead of teams like the Ravens and the Buccaneers. I talked about it during the week, actually, that it wasn't really the best matchup for the Seahawks, the Giants, that is. But I still picked them to win because they have more talent. So they're supposed to be the better team, and that didn't end up being the case in Week 13. So that's a disappointing loss. But the matchup was a little weird for them because the Giants played some good defense. But they had a heck of a game plan, the Giants. They had a heck of a game plan for Russell Wilson. They had him way off his game. So a disappointing game for the Seahawks. Games like that kind of stick with you when it's going to be coming, getting to playoff time when we view this team as a contender. So that's not a good one. They're down 3 spots to number 10. Number 9, the Colts move up 1 spot. Close game against the Texans. The production on offense was pretty solid. It almost felt like they could have put up more points. So I wish they would have went out and finished the game, executed the game, because I think they produce at the rate where they should win the game, even though they were kind of fortunate at the end to actually win the game, if that makes any sense. But basically, As the game as a whole, I felt like they should have won the game, but they were fortunate at the end there what happened. But defense clutch up the second half. Again, offense produced well enough to win the game. They got a huge game against the Raiders this week. 2 pretty similar teams offensively. Maybe I trust the Raiders offense a little more, Trust the Colts defense a bit more. 9 versus 15, that should be a pretty good game. So the Colts up 1 spot. It's about staying consistent in the big games. That was kind of the question for most of the year, because they would win this big game, and they would lose this one. They would win that one, lose this one, and then they lost to the Ravens, and then they won 2 in a row there with the Titans and the Packers, and they fell back down against the Titans. So another big game coming up. Which end are they going to be on? You just got to get out there with a W, but they are in the top 10 here. So the Colts are having a good season. 8. Speaking of the Titans, they're down 4 spots. Number 8. They were number 4. Disappointing loss against the Browns. It was really how they started. They just started. It was a disaster from the beginning. They had some weird turnovers, and they couldn't stop the Browns. Credit to the Browns offense. That was a fantastic game. And we see the Titans were actually able to come back. It was actually interesting because they were in the game and they made it a 6-point game, and they had a chance to kick an onside kick, and they had more mistakes than they normally don't make on the way to that comeback. So it will actually end up being a little closer than I think people realize, even though the Browns, for the majority of that game, did dominate that game. My point is, that's not, I don't know if that's the Titans team we should expect in big games going forward. It could happen. It's one of those things sticking in the back of your mind. If that could happen, it's harder to fully trust this team. But it's still a very good offense. The defense I am a little worried about, but they are down 4 spots. A disappointing loss there. They were dominated for most of that game, and they're at number 8. 7, the Rams up 1 spot. I like the Rams because they're a very complete team. I feel like the offense, when it gets going, when it's on, it's high tempo game, quick game. They're going, so I like that about the offense. It's really tricky, a lot of motion, really tricky to stop. Defense, I think, is one of the best in football. I'd say it's number 2, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're calling it number 1 at the end of the year. I love this defense. So complete team, well-coached team. They do get a little conservative early. They just got to limit the turnovers. They got to stay consistent as well. That's why I only can move them up 1 spot. Pretty good win against the Cardinals. I thought they dominated that game more than the score showed. But I'm ready to move them up again like I did in the past, but then they kind of just let me down. Maybe it's just the 49ers thing. They play the Patriots, similar matchup to the 49ers on Thursday. Can they figure it out? I want to like this team a lot. Just got to limit the turnovers. Jared Goff, we seen them. He actually took care of the ball. Seen him fumble a punt, and that kind of kept the Cardinals in the game last time. So stay consistent here. Take care of the ball, and this is a really good team. Better than number 7, but for now, that's where they belong. 6, the Cleveland Browns are into the top 6, moving up 3 spots. They're on a bit of a win streak, but now they finally get that statement win that we were all looking for. They beat the Titans there. A dominant offensive performance. They have the formula to beat pretty much any team. And that's to come in there, that's to pound the football, wear the other team out, run the clock, which means win the time of possession, get some dagger throws, some surprise throws for big plays, maybe touchdowns, because Baker's very good to play action. And he's more of a game changer, playmaker, quarterback than people give him credit for. So they have that formula. And the defense can give up some yards, some points, but they got the playmaking defense. That's what they need to pair with that offense. Just get your hands on the ball here and there. That's exactly what they need. That's what they got. They get Myles Garrett back in the mix last week. That looked great. They need Denzel Ward back in the mix. So this team's hot right now, and they're up to number 6, and they can continue to climb. Beating the Ravens, that could boost them up even more. Okay, that's a good game. It's a tough game. It's not the greatest matchup for them. Not that it's like a negative matchup. It's just, even if the Ravens were a negative team, under 500 team, it would still be. It's not the best matchup, so that would still be a solid, very solid win for the resume. And here we go. The Ravens are on the right track. They're number 11 here. This would be big. This would be big for the Browns. So impressed with them. Very impressed with them. They're at 6. Packers at 5. Just up 1 spot. They dominated the Eagles game for the most part. They kind of let the Eagles back in. I wish they would have put the game away because I feel like Packers are one of those teams where, for the most part, I feel like they can score it almost at any time, but sometimes that just stops, and I can't really figure out why. Maybe they did get a little conservative in this game. It feels like when they take deep shots, it kind of just works. So, and I understand you don't want to just air the ball out deep. I don't think they're worried about interception, just stopping the clock. I kind of understand that, but I think we'll see what they do going forward. But I think in those big games going forward, I think you got to be prepared to do that. You can't really shut down. But that's a good win there for the Packers. We know they're a dangerous team. So they are up to number 5 here. Number 4, Buffalo Bills up 1 spot. They're getting hot again. Looks like the early year Buffalo Bills that we were really high on. Josh Allen's balling. This offense is really hard to stop. It's one of those offenses where you can game plan for it, but can you game plan for it? I mean, you're going to. But is it going to work? Is it going to be that much of a factor? Pass rush really doesn't affect Josh Allen. Do you really want to blitz him? You can't really play man coverage against these receivers. You kind of got to pray that Josh Allen gets one, throws you the ball somehow, or the offensive line kind of fails him, which here and there it has. I don't know if it's as good as it was last year. Last year it was very solid and much improved compared to the previous years. But yeah, they're balling right now. The I mentioned it last week, maybe even the week before. The defense is getting better. It's definitely getting better. So they got a huge game against Steelers this week. Huge game. Speaking of the Steelers are down 2 spots, number 3. They were sitting at 1 for some time because they were undefeated. They were undefeated. It's so hard to stay undefeated. They finally lost. It's not the end of the world though. But we see 3 versus 4 this week. It's gonna be a hell of a game. Hell of a game there. Cannot wait for that. 2 teams. If I had to knock them a little bit, if I had to say a negative thing, 2 teams that need to get the run game going. The Bills are definitely heavy pass team, so they can win just passing the ball, but 2 teams that need to get the run game going to help them even more, take that next step. They can win games but only the pass game because they're that good on both sides of the ball. But if you can kind of incorporate the run game into it, be successful early in games with that, it's going to make you that much better. So that's what I'm looking forward to in this game. And it's 2 run games that I'm not really doubting for the future. It's just I'm saying they need to get it going a little more right now. The Steelers down 2 spots. I think people get on them a little too much. They lost to Washington. It was a pretty even matchup in terms of where their strengths and weaknesses are. And it's just so hard to stay undefeated. And we'll see if this is the case. This could backfire on me, but it's so hard to stay undefeated. There's so much pressure. Now you lost. Now it's all right, guys. That's it. Let's just go out there and ball now. There's nothing to worry about. Let's just play our game. That could be a factor. That could be what's going on there in the locker room, perhaps. I could be wrong. But I still like this team. They got to catch the ball better. They got to get the run game going. And just like that, the offense will be better. I think people knock their play calling a little too much. Sure, it could be better. I don't like throwing the ball to the offensive lineman inside the red zone, inside or on the goal line. I don't like that. But other than that, a lot of decisions Big Ben's making, that people are ripping. He's making a decision to change the play, where to go with the ball. See Anthony McFarland spit out why that caused confusion. I think people were knocking them for not going to a receiver like that, but if they were going to a receiver in that situation, a cornerback would have been out there, and that would have been a low percentage play because of the confusion on defense. I don't mind taking that shot there at all. And I don't think that was the offensive play call. I think that was Big Ben seeing something, which I saw. We all saw it, so no blame there. They just got to get the run game going. They got to catch the damn ball. I still like this defense, but losing Bud Dupree could knock them down a little bit. It does a little bit. TJ Watt still maybe the best in football. But now another injury, too. They got Joe Hayden, concussion protocol, and then Robert Spillane. That's pretty tough because he was actually calling the defense. So that's tough going against the Bills team here. But I still like the Steelers. They're still the best defense in football right now. The Rams might be coming. The Saints might be coming. Speaking of the Saints, they're at number 2. I kind of get a lot of teams I get this feel, but I get the team feeling with the Saints when I watch them play. Just a football team, did they play together? I don't know. I can't really explain why I see that, but I see that with some teams. The Saints, it just pops in my head right off the bat. Defense is playing out of their minds right now, and the offense I think is getting better. I think they could have put the Falcons away. It's kind of the positive and negative. They outplayed the Falcons by quite a bit. And that's great. That's good because the Falcons are starting to get better too. But the negative is you kind of let them back in the game. I want you to put them away. So you kind of play both sides. But Taysom Hill looks better throwing the ball. Everyone's clicking. Michael Thomas getting back in the mix. The defense, like I said, is playing out of their mind. So they're number 2. They're hot right now. They're pulling away in the NFC. And that's even without their Hall of Fame quarterback, future Hall of Fame quarterback there. So that's impressive. They are pulling away, but at the same time, there's other. I'm not trying to say there's not other good teams that can beat them at any given time, but they are number 2, and the Chiefs will be number 1, up 1 spot. A little close with the Broncos. Broncos play good defensively. The Chiefs could have scored a lot more points this game. They were very close to scoring a lot more points, so I'm not really worried about that at all. I think they're trying to get fancy in the red zone. I think I could be wrong, but I think they're kind of just trying some things out to keep future game plans on their toes, future defense on their toes. I'm pretty confident about that, seeing Andy Reid in the past. So I'm confident with this team. Defense played a good game. They know how to make plays at the right time. I wish the pass rush would get going a little more. I expect a little more from the pressure, the pass rush. But I think at the right time they can do that. But the Chiefs, they're hot. Only losses the Raiders. They went and kind of got revenge in that game a few weeks ago, so that builds up on the resume, of course. I think a lot of us agree that the Chiefs are probably the best team in football right now, so that really shouldn't be too much of a surprise. So we see a lot of changes here. I guess there's actually not any major changes. You see the Patriots are the team that got boosted the most for another win for them, but the major changes, the significant ones are at the top. You see 1, 2, 3 change. Well, the other teams move up a spot as well. The Browns, big movement. Like I said, the Patriots up 5 spots, but 3 when you're into the top 6 almost feels like the biggest one, though. Maybe moving up 1 spot to number 1 feels huge. Almost bigger than moving up 5 spots into 14. So maybe that's my take. But yeah, 3 plays 4 this week. What else we got? We got Rams, Patriots. We got Buccaneers, Vikings. We got Cardinals, Giants, Washington 49ers. We got Browns, Ravens. Colts, Raiders. Did I already say that? I don't remember. Yeah, this week 14 is going to be something. Our weekly picks for week 14 with the other guys of the channel already uploaded, so you can check that out. Score predictions coming later today. Hey, maybe by the time you're listening to this, they're already up, so you got plenty of content to get to. Follow that Twitter for even more content. If you don't have a Twitter, make one. That's a must follow there. Link down below. Please smash the like button, subscribe, turn notifications on, all that. Be much appreciated. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.